The galaxy was vast, filled with many powerful races, but none as proud as the Kalarn Empire. They were known for their advanced technology, massive fleets, and unmatched arrogance. For centuries, the Kalarn believed they were the strongest and most feared in the galaxy. Their empire had conquered many worlds, enslaved weaker species, and crushed any who dared to resist. So when they turned their attention to Earth, they didn't see it as a threat. To them, humans were nothing more than insects, a primitive race still crawling in the dust. The Kalarn Emperor Vrax sat on his golden throne, looking at the holographic display of Earth. His long, red eyes narrowed in contempt as he watched human cities bustling with life, unaware of the storm that was coming. He sneered, his sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light of the control room. "Humans," he spat, "they don't know what's coming for them." The Kalarn Empire had already sent a message to Earth, a challenge they thought would strike fear into human hearts. The message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. They expected humans to bow down, to beg for mercy like so many races before them. But the response from Earth was silence, not a single word. This only made the Kalarn more confident. They thought the humans were too scared to reply, too weak to defend themselves. "Pathetic," Vrax muttered. He stood, his long robes flowing behind him as he paced in front of his council. "Prepare the fleet. We will crush these humans quickly and show the galaxy once again why we are the supreme power." Across the galaxy, on Earth, things were very different. Humans had heard the message loud and clear. But instead of fear, the challenge was met with quiet determination. Earth's leaders gathered in secret meetings, discussing how to respond. The public was kept unaware of the growing threat, as governments prepared for what might come. Humanity knew the Kalarn Empire by reputation: brutal, relentless, and ruthless. But what the Kalarn didn't know was that humans had been preparing for this day. For decades, humanity had developed advanced weapons, space fleets, and defensive technologies hidden from the rest of the galaxy. They knew that one day a more powerful race would come knocking, and they had no intention of being caught off guard. In underground bunkers and secret space stations, Earth's military strategists worked around the clock, readying their forces. While the Kalarn Empire mocked them from afar, humanity was preparing for war. General Ava Reynolds, leader of Earth's defense forces, stood in the command center, looking at a large holographic map of the galaxy. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with intensity. She had seen the reports, knew what the Kalarn were capable of, but she was not afraid. "They think we're weak," she said, her voice steady. "They think they can just roll over us like they have with other species. But they have no idea what's coming." Earth's leaders had made a decision. They would not surrender, nor would they respond to the Kalarn's challenge. Silence was their weapon. Let the Kalarn think they were afraid. Let them come, believing that they would win easily. When they arrived, they would face the full force of humanity's hidden strength. As the days passed, the Kalarn Empire grew impatient. Their fleet was ready, their soldiers eager for battle. The Emperor watched, waiting for a sign of fear from Earth, but none came. It was time to act. "Prepare for invasion," Vrax ordered. "We will burn their cities to the ground and remind the galaxy why we are to be feared." And so the Kalarn fleet moved toward Earth, believing they were about to make history with another easy conquest. But they had no idea that this challenge would be their greatest mistake. The stage was set. The Kalarn were coming, and humanity was ready. The Kalarn fleet moved through the darkness of space like a predator stalking its prey. Hundreds of massive warships, each bristling with advanced weaponry, approached Earth. The Kalarn Empire was confident. They had conquered dozens of planets with fleets just like this one. They expected no resistance. They expected an easy victory. Emperor Vrax watched from his flagship, a colossal vessel called the Wrath of Kalarn. He smirked as he saw Earth come into view on the monitors. "Prepare to destroy their defenses," he commanded. His generals nodded, already certain of their success. To them, this was just another mission, another weak race to crush. On Earth, the people were still unaware of the danger coming for them. But in secret military bases, deep underground, and in space stations hidden in the outer reaches of the solar system, humanity's defense forces were ready. General Ava Reynolds stood in the command center, watching the same view of the incoming Kalarn fleet. Her expression was calm, but everyone around her knew that something big was about to happen. "They're coming right into our trap," Ava said, her voice filled with quiet confidence. They think we're defenseless. They're about to learn the truth. The Kalarn fleet entered Earth's orbit, preparing to launch their first attack. Their scanners showed only minimal defenses, some outdated satellites and a few small ships. The Kalarn generals laughed. "This will be over in minutes," one of them said. But then something unexpected happened. Out of nowhere, dozens of massive human warships appeared. They had been cloaked, hiding in the darkness of space, waiting for the perfect moment. The Kalarn were caught completely off guard. These ships were unlike anything the Kalarn had seen before, sleek, heavily armed, and clearly ready for battle. "What is this?" Emperor Vrax growled, rising from his throne. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. How could the humans have such powerful ships? This wasn't what he expected. "Fire at them!" he shouted. "Destroy them all!" The Kalarn warships opened fire, but the human fleet was ready. Their shields absorbed the first wave of attacks, and then they struck back. Beams of energy and missiles shot out from the human ships, hitting the Kalarn fleet with precision. The first Kalarn ship exploded in a fiery burst, followed by another and another. Within minutes, the once mighty Kalarn fleet was in chaos. "They're falling apart," Ava said, watching the battle unfold. Her strategy had worked perfectly. By allowing the Kalarn to think they had the upper hand, humanity had gained the element of surprise. Now the invaders were paying the price. On board the Wrath of Kalarn, Emperor Vrax slammed his fist on his command chair. "How is this possible?" he roared. His generals scrambled to respond, but it was clear that the Kalarn had underestimated Earth in the worst way possible. Their ships, designed to crush weaker civilizations, were no match for humanity's advanced technology and brilliant tactics. Back on Earth, the news of the battle began to spread. People who had been unaware of the danger now watched in awe as humanity's secret fleet fought off the alien invaders. There was shock, fear, but also a growing sense of pride. Humanity wasn't weak. Humanity was fighting back. The battle raged on, but it was clear who the victor would be. The Kalarn fleet was in ruins. Their ships were either destroyed or retreating. The Wrath of Kalarn was heavily damaged, limping away from the fight. Emperor Vrax's dream of an easy conquest had turned into a nightmare. He had never imagined that humanity could pose such a threat. As the last of the Kalarn ships fled, General Ava Reynolds stood tall, watching the victory unfold. "They'll be back," she said quietly, "but next time they'll know who they're dealing with." The Kalarn had thought Earth would be an easy target. Instead, they had walked into a trap, and now their pride was in shambles. The humans had won the first battle, but everyone knew the war was far from over, and this was just the beginning. The Kalarn Empire was reeling from their shocking defeat. Their once proud fleet, which they believed was unstoppable, had been shattered by humanity's surprise attack. Emperor Vrax, humiliated and furious, returned to the heart of the Kalarn Empire to regroup. His pride was wounded, but he wasn't ready to admit defeat. He believed he could still crush Earth with a stronger, larger fleet. "We underestimated them," Vrax growled, pacing in his war room. His advisors stood nervously around him, afraid to speak. The Emperor's rage was clear, and no one wanted to provoke him further. "But we will not make the same mistake again. This time we will send everything we have. We will wipe out humanity and erase this humiliation from history." In a matter of days, Vrax gathered the largest fleet the Kalarn Empire had ever assembled. Thousands of ships, armed with the most powerful weapons, prepared for a second invasion of Earth. Vrax wanted nothing less than complete destruction. This time, there would be no mercy. The Kalarn would crush Earth with overwhelming force. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Ava Reynolds and her team were ready. The first battle had been a victory, but Ava knew that the Kalarn wouldn't stop. They would return, and when they did, they would come with everything they had. The humans had to strike first. "We can't wait for them to attack again," Ava said during a high-level meeting. She stood in front of a holographic map of the Kalarn Empire, pointing to their key military bases and shipyards. "If we wait, they'll bring a force too large for us to handle. We need to take the fight to them." Earth's leaders agreed. The best defense was a good offense, and now was the time to act. With the element of surprise on their side, humanity prepared for its own strike against the Kalarn Empire. A fleet of Earth's best ships, led by General Ava herself, launched into space. Their mission, to destroy the Kalarn's shipyards and cripple their ability to fight back. The human fleet traveled through space, moving quickly and quietly. As they approached the Kalarn's main shipyards, the tension on board the human ships was palpable. Everyone knew this mission could determine the fate of Earth. If they succeeded, the Kalarn would be severely weakened. If they failed, the Kalarn would strike back with full force. Finally, they arrived at the Kalarn shipyards, a massive structure floating in space, surrounded by dozens of warships and defenses. Ava and her team had planned carefully for this moment. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting a specific section of the shipyards. Their strategy was to strike fast and hard, causing as much damage as possible before the Kalarn could react. "Engage the enemy," Ava ordered. Her voice was calm but firm. The human ships moved into position, and within seconds they opened fire. The Kalarn were caught completely off guard. They had expected Earth to remain on the defensive, but now they were the ones being attacked. Explosions rocked the shipyards as human missiles and energy weapons tore through Kalarn ships and structures. The once bustling shipyards, where new warships were being built, were now a battlefield of destruction. Emperor Vrax, watching from his command center, was livid. "How are they doing this?" he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. His pride had already been wounded, and now Earth was striking at the heart of his empire. "Fight back! Destroy them!" But it was too late. The human fleet was too fast, too precise. Kalarn warships tried to defend the shipyards, but they were overwhelmed. One by one, the Kalarn's key production facilities were destroyed. In just a few hours, Earth had crippled the Kalarn's ability to build new ships. The victory was decisive. General Ava and her fleet left the shipyards in ruins, returning to Earth as heroes. The Kalarn had been dealt a massive blow, one they might not recover from. For the first time in their history, the Kalarn Empire was truly afraid. Humanity, once seen as weak and insignificant, had proven itself to be a deadly force. Back on Earth, Ava stood before her commanders, her expression firm but determined. "This war isn't over," she said. "But the Kalarn know one thing now. They're not the only power in the galaxy. We are ready for whatever comes next." Humanity had struck back, and the Kalarn would never forget it. The Kalarn Empire was still recovering from the shock of their defeat. They had expected to crush Earth with ease, but instead, they were the ones fleeing in panic. Emperor Vrax, humiliated and furious, had retreated to his empire, plotting his revenge. But while he prepared for a second attack, Earth was not about to sit idly by. General Ava Reynolds stood in the war room, staring at a holographic map of the Kalarn Empire. Around her, military officers and strategists were deep in discussion. But Ava remained silent, her eyes fixed on one thing, the Kalarn's main military outpost. "We can't wait for them to attack again," Ava said finally, breaking the tension in the room. "They'll come back with a bigger fleet, stronger weapons. This time we need to strike first. We need to hit them where it hurts." The room fell silent as her words sank in. The Kalarn were a fearsome enemy, but Ava knew that if humanity wanted to survive, they had to be bold. The element of surprise had worked before, and it was time to use it again. "We know where their shipyards are," Ava continued. "If we destroy their ability to build more warships, we'll cripple their empire. They won't have the resources to launch another invasion." The plan was daring, but it was the only option. Earth's top military leaders agreed. Within hours, preparations for the attack were underway. The best ships in Earth's fleet were gathered, their crews ready for battle. Ava would lead the strike herself. As the fleet left Earth's orbit and traveled deep into Kalarn territory, the tension was palpable. Every soldier knew the stakes. If this mission failed, Earth would face certain destruction when the Kalarn returned. But if they succeeded, the Kalarn Empire could be brought to its knees. After days of travel through the vast emptiness of space, the human fleet finally reached the Kalarn's shipyards. The massive station, which spanned miles, was surrounded by dozens of Kalarn warships ready to defend it. But the humans had the advantage. They had come undetected, and the Kalarn had no idea they were about to be attacked. After days of travel through the vast emptiness of space, the human fleet finally reached the Kalarn's shipyards. The massive station, which spanned miles, was surrounded by dozens of Kalarn warships ready to defend it. But the humans had the advantage. They had come undetected, and the Kalarn had no idea they were about to be attacked. Ava stood on the bridge of her command ship, eyes fixed on the massive shipyards in the distance. "All units, prepare for attack," she ordered. Her voice was steady, but there was no denying the intensity of the moment. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting a different section of the Kalarn defenses. Ava's strategy was simple: hit them hard, hit them fast, and retreat before the Kalarn could fully respond. Within moments, the human ships opened fire. Beams of energy and powerful missiles streaked through space, striking the Kalarn ships and the shipyards themselves. The first Kalarn warship exploded in a ball of fire, followed by another. Chaos erupted as the Kalarn tried to scramble their forces, but it was too late. The humans had the upper hand. Inside the shipyards, Kalarn engineers and soldiers ran in panic. Explosions rocked the facility as key sections were blown apart. The humans had targeted the shipyard's main production facilities where new warships were being built. Without those, the Kalarn's ability to fight back would be crippled. Emperor Vrax, watching from his distant command post, was enraged. "How dare they?" he roared, slamming his fist on the table. How is this happening again? But no matter how much he shouted, it didn't change the reality of the situation. The humans were winning, and the Kalarn were powerless to stop them. After several hours of intense fighting, the human fleet had accomplished its mission. The shipyards were in ruins, and the Kalarn's war machine had been dealt a fatal blow. With their job done, the human ships began to retreat, disappearing back into the darkness of space before the Kalarn could mount a full counterattack. On board her ship, Ava watched the destruction from a distance. "They'll think twice before coming after Earth again," she said quietly, a sense of victory in her voice. The humans had struck back, and they had done so with devastating precision. The Kalarn, once the galaxy's most feared empire, had been humbled. But Ava knew this was only one battle in a much larger war. The Kalarn wouldn't give up easily, and neither would humanity. For now, though, Earth was safe. And as long as General Ava Reynolds was leading the charge, the Kalarn would continue to learn that humanity was far stronger than they had ever imagined. The Kalarn Empire was no longer what it once was. After Earth's devastating strike on their shipyards, their ability to wage war had been crippled. The once mighty empire, feared across the galaxy, was now on the verge of collapse. Emperor Vrax, once proud and arrogant, now faced a reality he never thought possible. His empire was falling apart. In the great Kalarn capital, chaos reigned. The streets were filled with frightened civilians as word of the human attack spread like wildfire. Factories once used to build warships now sat silent and in ruins. Soldiers who had once marched with confidence now looked defeated, unsure of what the future held. Inside the imperial palace, Vrax paced back and forth, his face twisted in fury. His advisors stood quietly, afraid to speak. The emperor had never been this angry before, but there was something else: fear. For the first time in his life, Vrax felt fear. "How could this happen?" he roared, slamming his fist on the table. "We are the Kalarn. No one defeats us. No one!" His advisors remained silent. They knew the truth but dared not speak it. The humans had proven themselves to be far more powerful and resilient than anyone had expected. They had hit the Kalarn where it hurt, and now the empire was crumbling. "We must strike back!" Vrax demanded, his voice filled with desperation. "We cannot let them win." But his advisors knew it wasn't that simple. The Empire's fleets were in disarray, their shipyards destroyed, and their forces scattered across the galaxy. The Kalarn were no longer the unstoppable force they once were. One advisor finally gathered the courage to speak. "Your Excellency, we must consider negotiations," he said cautiously. "The humans are too powerful now. If we continue this war, it will be the end of us." Vrax glared at him, but deep down he knew the advisor was right. The Kalarn were running out of options. The humans had shown no mercy, and it was only a matter of time before they launched another attack. Still, the thought of surrendering was too much for Vrax to bear. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Ava Reynolds and her team were preparing for the final push. The intelligence reports were clear. The Kalarn Empire was on the brink of collapse. Their once mighty military had been reduced to a fraction of its former strength, and their leadership was in chaos. Ava stood in front of her commanders, reviewing the plan for their final strike. "This is it," she said firmly. "The Kalarn are weakened. One more decisive blow and their empire will fall." The plan was simple. Earth's forces would target the Kalarn capital directly. They would strike at the heart of the empire, forcing Vrax to either surrender or face total destruction. The human fleet, bolstered by their recent victories, was more than ready for the task. As the human ships approached the Kalarn capital, Vrax's worst fears were realized. The humans were coming, and this time, they were not holding back. The skies above the capital filled with Earth's warships, their weapons aimed directly at the Imperial Palace. Panic spread throughout the city as the Kalarn realized their empire was truly finished. Civilians fled in terror, while what remained of the Kalarn military tried desperately to mount a defense. But it was no use, the humans had the upper hand in every way. Inside the palace, Vrax watched in disbelief as his empire crumbled before his eyes. He had once believed that the Kalarn were invincible, that no species could ever challenge them. But now, he realized just how wrong he had been. As the human fleet prepared to launch their final attack, Vrax stood in silence. His advisors looked to him for orders, but there was nothing left to say. The mighty Kalarn Empire had fallen, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Finally, with a heavy heart, Vrax gave the order that he had sworn he would never give. "Surrender," he whispered, his voice broken. "We surrender." The message was sent, and the humans received it immediately. General Ava, standing on the bridge of her command ship, watched as the Kalarn capital lowered its defenses. The war was over. Humanity had won, and the Kalarn Empire, once feared across the galaxy, had fallen. Ava took a deep breath, knowing that this victory would change the course of history. The Kalarn had challenged humanity and paid the ultimate price. The surrender of the Kalarn Empire marked a turning point in the galaxy. General Ava Reynolds stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the once-feared Kalarn fleet lowered its weapons. It was hard to believe how quickly everything had changed. Just months ago, humanity had been a minor player on the galactic stage, but now they were emerging as a new power. As the Kalarn ships began to land, Earth's fleet took control of the capital. Soldiers and civilians alike watched in awe and disbelief. The Kalarn, who had once instilled fear in countless worlds, were now at the mercy of their former prey. Ava could hardly contain her excitement. "We did it!" she exclaimed to her crew. "This is our moment!" With the Kalarn Empire in disarray, Earth's leaders knew they had a crucial decision to make. They could either punish the Kalarn for their aggression or extend a hand to help rebuild their broken empire. Ava felt strongly that they should choose the latter. After all, true strength lay not just in victory, but in compassion. Once the initial chaos had settled, Ava and the leaders of Earth gathered for a meeting with the Kalarn representatives. Vrax, once the proud emperor, now appeared a shadow of his former self. He stood before them, his posture defeated. "We come to you in surrender," he began, his voice shaky. "We know that we have caused you great pain. We ask for your mercy." Ava looked at him, taking a moment to consider the Kalarn's plea. "We are willing to help you rebuild," she replied, her voice steady. "But first, we need to ensure that you will not threaten Earth or any other worlds again." Vrax nodded. "We understand. We will cooperate fully. The Kalarn Empire will never seek to invade again." The meeting marked a new beginning. The Kalarn agreed to disband their military and help establish peace treaties with other races in the galaxy. As Earth took steps to assist in rebuilding, Ava felt a sense of hope. Perhaps this was the moment to change the course of history, turning former enemies into allies. In the following weeks, Earth and the Kalarn began to work together. Human engineers helped restore Kalarn infrastructure, while Kalarn scientists shared their advanced technologies. It was a time of cooperation, and for the first time, both species could see the benefits of working together. With the Kalarn now allied with Earth, the galaxy began to take notice. Other races watched closely as the two former enemies transformed into partners. The alliance sent a powerful message: peace could be achieved, even after deep conflict. As the partnership grew, Earth's influence expanded. Ava became a key figure in the new Galactic Council, representing humanity alongside Vrax. Together, they promoted a vision of unity and cooperation among all species. The Council held meetings, focusing on trade, security, and shared knowledge. The galaxy had been marked by war and conflict for too long. It was time for change. Yet, not all were pleased with this new order. Some factions within the Kalarn Empire were unhappy with the surrender and were plotting to regain their former power. They believed that the Kalarn should have fought to the last instead of capitulating to humanity. But Ava and Vrax remained committed to their path, knowing that the only way forward was through peace. One day, while addressing the Galactic Council, Ava spoke passionately. "We stand at the dawn of a new era," she declared. Together, we can build a galaxy where all species can thrive in harmony. The Kalarn and humanity have shown that even the deepest rivalries can be overcome. Let us not squander this opportunity. Her words resonated with many. The Council voted to strengthen their ties and create a mutual defense pact, ensuring that all members would stand together against any threat. The galaxy was changing, and Earth was at the forefront. As Ava looked around the chamber, she felt a sense of pride. Humanity had faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious, not through violence alone, but through understanding and cooperation. They had become a new galactic power, and the future was bright. With the Kalarn by their side, humanity was ready to lead the way into a new age. They had turned the tide of history, proving that even in the darkest of times, hope and unity could pave the path to a better tomorrow. The galaxy was no longer just a place of conflict. It was now a canvas for peace, painted by those who dared to dream of something greater.